Hey, this is Notser, and we are talking about bow armor and the British cruiser line. I'm sure many of you have heard the news, and this is really all I can talk about. I'm not allowed to talk about the stats or how I actually played them. Oh, by the way, they're gone. I can't play them anymore. Thanks, everyone. No, I'm just teasing. It's obviously because they have to retool them. So, for anyone who doesn't know, they are going to be nerfing the bow armor of high-tier battleships. Why are they doing this? Well, they want to try and discourage the bow armor playstyle that pops up right around tiers 8, 9, and 10. I would say the Izimo is probably the most obvious. We have the French Dunkirk. Those are two ships that just scream, go bow on and engage the target. Be very stationary, that sort of thing. They're not addressing the French battleship. It's not really an issue. It's only really an issue at high tier, and that's where they're changing it. They're changing it from, 31 millimeters equivalent to, 28? Basically, they're going to allow every single shell that a battleship fires, theoretically, at high tier, 406 millimeters, all the way up to 460, they will be able to penetrate the bow of any battleship. Now, you could consider angling your ship. That would obviously increase the effective armor and cause ricochets, that sort of thing. That's not going to go away. But what they want to do is try and move the pace up. Anything that causes stagnation, they want to get rid of. So, what did they do this patch? Well, the radar change, I feel, was an aggressive counter to the British cruiser line, and I will go into that in more detail, but I think the radar buff, it's absolutely insane buff, by the way. It's too powerful, and maybe they'll bring it back a little bit, but they want to get away from people who hide in smoke, the bow-on battleship. They want to get away from the aircraft carrier that one-shots a ship without any counterplay. They want the game to feel like there's time to make a choice, see that choice come either a good outcome or a bad outcome, and move on from there, and not have such a stagnant game. This is not tanks. You don't sit behind a rock or a bush and you hide. This is a ship combat game where you move around, and there's weird things in the combat where they're encouraged to stay stationary. I mean, if you had the Izimo, wouldn't you think logically I should be bow on and only require my bow on to engage the target? I don't need to show my side. Obviously, the Montana suffers from a bow on meta, and it's made to be weaker. To some extent, the Grosse Kurfürst is in the same boat. They're made to be weaker if they have a higher percentage of their total damage locked away behind the ship, right? You only have one turret for the Yamato that you're sacrificing. You only have one turret for the Izmo that you're sacrificing. You can't really get by with sacrificing 50% of your damage, so you're less encouraged to be bow on. What do I think of this? Is this going to fix the issue of tier 10? Absolutely not. It's an economy issue. It's very obvious it's an economy issue. Whenever I play an outstanding game, and I'm basically the person who carries the game, I score pretty average, 23, 2500 base XP. I get nothing. I basically break even. And I'm the best player on my team, or the best player on the enemy team. They just break even. No, that's not a good solution, okay? When there's 24 players in a match, and not a single person, no matter if they have non-premium or premium, can come out ahead, there's something wrong. There should always be a player in the match, if they do exceptionally well, where they've paid off for that match. That's just the nature of putting 24 players in a game. Obviously, someone is going to do something exceptional. Everyone is not going to be completely average. That's not logic. There's too many variables that dictate that a player or a class or whatever is ineffective in this matchup, even the map. So don't be afraid to award enough credits and XP to sustain the player. I mean, it is only tier 10. What's the worst that could happen? Someone is so good at tier 10, they just keep pulling tier 10s, and they win all the time. Is that really what you're afraid of? Do you feel like tier 10s are that dominant? Then you did a terrible job of balancing the game. Tier 10s are not that dominant. Tier 10s do have advantages that are very obvious, but they're not immortal. HE can basically do damage to anything, and it is a cascade effect. It does a lot of damage, especially if people want to sort of jump on that train to really make the battleship or whatever suffer. I mean, destroyers, who cares? Tier 10 destroyer versus a tier 8. The only people that really care about the super powerful destroyers are other destroyers. They're nothing, right? They're absolutely nothing. Same with cruisers. Any battleship, tier 8, can rebalance a cruiser like it's nothing. It's really only the battleship, and maybe the aircraft carrier, where the tier 10 variant feels like there is a clear advantage. So, we'll see how it goes. The bow-on change, we'll see, right? It's a minor adjustment. Most of my games, I do not see a player taking advantage of a bow-on, and I doubt that this will get rid of it. It'll probably go from, 20% of my games to 5%. I mean, remember when this game came out? I hope people remember, if they weren't there. There were people who came and became stationary behind an island, at the edge of the island. They were trying to treat it like World of Tanks, where you sit behind the rock and you engage the target and you don't move, you just hold that flank. No. That doesn't work here. You can't do that. A stationary target is very easy to hit. So we'll see how it goes there. As far as the British cruiser line, I cannot say stats. I cannot give you a concrete impression. I can say that I no longer have access to them, and that was indeed a developer that was telling us that they're going to retool the British cruiser line, and they're not happy with the playstyle of the British cruiser line. And why is that? Well, as predicted, I think I said something along the lines of the Atlanta or the Flint. I think plenty of people have said something similar. Well, yeah, imagine an entire line of Flints. That's basically what it was. It was not pretty, and it was not fun to play against so much smoke, because those Flints, they can put it out, they have a high rate of fire, the turrets, they traverse very quickly. The Flint is just one of those things where you've got to be very careful with engaging the target. Now, he is very fragile if you catch him out, but the Flint is still dominant because the player is not going to allow you a scenario where you can catch him out. He's going to manipulate the battle in his favor. And that's basically what the British cruiser line could do. That's why they buffed radar. In my opinion, they were terrified by how much potential power existed in the British cruiser line, and this was their counter to it. It's an ignorant counter because it's going to extremely impact every single destroyer until it changes again. It is a massive nerf to the destroyer gameplay. You know, one thing you could say is, I don't want people sitting in smoke and firing. That's fine, but a casualty to all this is basically every time a destroyer would get close, and it would be obvious for the player, right? They knew how situation awareness worked. They read the situation and said, there is an enemy close by. Boom, pop your radar. It has basically 360 degrees. It doesn't care about islands. It doesn't care about anything. Easily see the target, take the target out, and that's what happened. I was playing on the stream, and whenever I would run into US or Soviet cruisers, it was very obvious I was at a massive disadvantage immediately after the patch. And I can believe it. I can believe these changes. After playing the British cruiser line, a bunch of flints is the last thing we need. We really don't need that in the game. It honestly would have been very punishing for a reasonable player to have to play against a really good British cruiser commander. It would have been on the level of the flint. I mean, the flint will make people look absolutely silly, but some flint commanders don't have a clue of how to play it, right? I might be one of them, but it is a devastating package. So what have they said? They said that they're going to refocus it for AP and speed and take away smoke. Maybe give it speed boost. Okay, how fast is it really going to get? Is it going to be faster than some destroyers? Is it going to toe that line on the speed? Is it going to be faster than the Japanese? I'm curious how fast they're going to make it. It has the lines of potential destroyers, but is it really appropriate to give a 152 millimeter gun a really fast platform to get around? I mean, how fast is too fast, right? We'll have to see. We'll have to see how well it works out. It was interesting to test them. Now, I could freely talk about the flint. I can talk about the flint all day, and it was interesting playing the flints, all the mini flints, having all that flint power. I don't know when I'll get them back. I think they've been pushed back past what 5.12 is the next patch, so I think 5.13. So the earliest we'll probably see them is November, right? We have October. October was going to be 5.12, or I guess September is 5.12. I guess maybe October is the earliest we would see it, instead of the earliest being September at some point. Maybe November. It seems like, I don't know how long it's going to take to retool. We're gonna lose a patch without him. I'm as frustrated as you are, but believe me, you don't want to play against more flints. It is not a fun situation unless you have radar or hydro or something like that. So hopefully this was interesting. I was considering waiting until my Untitled, but I just had to talk about these two things. It's too big of a change, right? Anyway, I hope you have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you next time.